Okay. Hey y'all. My name is Kevin. I'm a software engineer at Griffin's Robotech. At the same time, I'm a Microsoft MVP on web development and Cosmos DB. I'd like to welcome you to a series of calls we are going to have on Kenya Data Platform. Starting with web programming. Um, we shall be going through some of the concepts as people demand them, or we as I know them. And I chose first to start with Nest, which is just a node backend, and then we shall go all the way to C Sharp and .NET, and also do something similar to what we are doing. And then maybe from there we shall move on to other things like um, DevOps and front end and desktop applications with even TypeScript. I think that will be cool. This will be based on some of the things I do as personal projects and work. So I might not be right on everything. So if you know something better, feel free to contribute or interject and or ask for clarification. That's how a community is. You have to share your thoughts with other people. At the same time, you have to also hear what other people have to say about this. So I'll try as much as possible to make this a thing, like every Saturday at this time. Sometimes we shall be swapping between Saturday and Sunday, just in case I have some issues with, like, as you can see, I'm in a dark room. There is no electricity, so in such situations, so if it happens regularly on Saturday, I think I'll um, ask you guys for us to move these events to Sunday. Um, Other than that, I think that's basically the introduction part. So I'd like to welcome you guys and feel free to share your opinions on some things, maybe even the next topics to be covered. I thought to start with this. I don't know whether it is beginner friendly, but as we shall move on, we shall know where our community is, and if the community um, requires to maybe handle more beginner friendly type of calls, um, we shall also do that. So basically, the way I've structured these calls is that we have a short time, like an hour and 20 minutes or 30 minutes. So I might not be able to code almost everything. So for that, I have created a repo which I'll be uploading the code immediately after the call. And also I've created a README guideline, which is step by step. With it, I don't know how. Okay, let me share my screen. I have one screen, to be honest. So this will be a little bit difficult for me. So let me share the entire screen, and then I think I can go to. Um, this is too small for me, but anyway. We have this Kenya Data Platform um, user group GitHub page. So I'll also pin these um, in our meetup page so that you can always get it in the meetup page after the call. In the comment section, I'll always pin the repo which is particularly for that call. So if you know your way to GitHub and to this repo, it will be also easy. So if you go to repos, for example, I have started working on not ESP but Node backend development. So inside here, you shall see like Um, today's call, we're talking about project setup, just like choosing which libraries and frameworks and tools you're going to use to develop your API using Node. So basically, that's all about it. So inside here, you see inside the repo, um, It has the whole code base. As you can see, it has been committed with one commit. But in the README section, and I'm also going to add the PPT for this call inside this repo where you can just find it under the docs. But inside these, you find we have like steps on how I'm supposed to do these from scratch. So you can see the tech stacks. Um, you can see the final project, how it should look like, prerequisites, and then you have like step by step. So if you're new to Node.js, you might need to do like Node.js 101, probably TypeScript 101. I don't know whether you guys want us to do those things and maybe tackle some of the concepts which you'll never miss when you're using Node or any Node based framework. So simply, if you're new, we have pnpm. You just search pnpm.io, it will take you to that place. And if you install pnpm and you come to commands and you go to manage, not manage, but manage environments, you should be able to install any node version. I like using pnpm because you can swap between two or three different types of node versions. So for example, you can use the node version 2022. I don't know why you should be using that, but you can do that. You can use the latest one by just running these commands. And after you do that, you should be good to go. You should be able, in your machine, you should be able to confirm some few things. For example, you should be able to do like pnpm dash dash version like that and get the version of pnpm. Um, Mine is taking a while, I don't know why, but anyway, so that's pnpm. So you should also check if you have node installed, because you can use pnpm to install node, as I have said, by doing the same thing like that. And if you install node, it comes with npm. So if you do npm version, you should also see it there. So if you have all this, you are good to go. Um, so in this repo, you'll also see like I have some few things I've said, hey, you need to have like Git installed, Docker. So if you have a problem with doing this, I know it's just a Google. You can just Google or go to YouTube and do that, install Docker, and you should be good to go. So basically, if you create a Nest application, you should be able to come to tsconfig and change some few things here. And then as you go on, you shall follow step by step. I've tried as much as possible to make it easier for you to do step by step. This should teach you more than I can do. Again, if you have any question, we have a WhatsApp group, but since not everyone is fan of WhatsApp, we have like this chat whatever section in our meetup page. If you just ask any question, if you are stuck anywhere on that, I should be able to respond to you, or anyone should be able to respond to you, because this will, if you write a comment here, it will basically kind of send an email to me and probably to all leads and maybe even members. So if I send a private comment and I say visible to all attendees, they should all see that comment. So someone should help you as quick as possible. We can use Meetup. You can ask it on our WhatsApp group, whichever makes you happy. That's good. You don't have to write me an email on that. We also have a review section. You can always review us and maybe share something cool. Other than that, I think this is well understood. Yep, it has a lot of things. But I also had some PPTs with me today for this call. Trying to find it. Okay, here we go. I hope I'm still audible. Maybe someone can unmute and tell me. Okay, thank you. Um, oh, Dennis Kaduri, you are here. But I can't see. I have to now bring the screen here. I have one screen, so simply just unmute yourself and say something. I want people to see all these screens. Okay. Uh, so this is the first page. So these are some of the tech stacks. Why did I choose Drizzle? I love Drizzle. It's fast and also it's lightweight, and that is kind of where I lean on. I like learning new things and exploring new things to make software engineering fun. Postgres, I love Postgres. It has a lot of cool features to explore. And again, it's always good as a software engineer to know Docker. Just in case you guys want us to do some type of container sessions, let me know. I can create dedicated 2 or 3 calls on Docker, so that you can kind of ace it, because hey, you'll never miss Docker in any work. It's like something you have to know. Yeah. So okay. So what will you build? You should be able to create at least one endpoint on employees on this session. You should also know how to do like query things and touch a little bit of pagination and sorting. You should also be able to set up Drizzle ORM, which is like the ORM which will help us not write SQL queries, but also write something close to that. Also, we have like Zod validation. So this should help you to validate data. So it should help you create schemas. So schemas is how you design a database. So you design a database, an SQL database using things like tables, and a schema is like a table that has not been yet been pushed to the database. So Zod is so good at that. I know in the Nest ecosystem people use type ORM, but I'm hearing rumors that that should not always be the case in the upcoming templates for Nest. So they are going to remove all those class validators and those things which are like which comes with the template in favor of Zod. I like Zod because you can use Zod in front end, in the back end, in validating any request coming from the user, at the same time in creating schemas. Also, we're going to use Docker Compose. We shall also see how to seed data, which is very important. Yeah, so we'll be using Nest, Drizzle, Node Postgres will be like our driver to connect Drizzle ORM with Postgres. I've talked about Zod, Docker, and PNPM. These are some of the things we're supposed to do today. Um, um, I think all these things you guys know them. You should have them at least. Um, yeah. So this is just a repetition of the things I think I've already spoken about. So yeah, like I was saying, I'm going to use Zod instead of class validators. Okay. So the first step is to scaffold and then config and then spin up Docker and then connect to the database, and then you can now create the CRUDs operations, and then you can seed the data. So what you'll take home is this template. You shall be able to get into the GitHub and um, clone everything, or I don't know, whatever you want, zip it and download it, whichever works for you, or SSH for my colleagues who are using Ubuntu and the Linux distros. Um, yeah. By the in later course, I'll emphasize on these patterns like the green architecture, and others like modular patterns. So Nest by default enforces you to use the modular pattern, which is good. Whether you are a new developer, you should know these things because during interviews they will make you sound like you have 10 years of experience. Um, we also have what else? The rest is just you'll have like a readme which can guide you. So ready to build, and I think that's the end of uh, the PPT. So that means we can easily now go to the code. Not that one. Okay. I'm inside VS Code. Unfortunately, this code is inside um, WSL. I wanted to move it uh, where it's supposed to be, like in the Windows, but anyway, I I forgot to do that. So basically, is the font okay? I'm using the smallest screen in the world. I hope the font is okay. The font is okay. Cool. Um, let me jump on it. So basically, this is a project. So as I said, if you want to create a Nest um, project, if you go to the README section, let me just open it and show you how easily you can do that. Okay, I'm just wondering, you can't preview README command. Okay, everything today is not working. But let's see now the source code of a README. I think we can work with that. Okay. So let me just show you this. I know you'll do something similar. So once you install the Nest CLI by running pnpm or npm install dash global at Nest CLI, you should be able to run commands associated with Nest. And the first command is usually of creating a project. For example, I can do something like nest new is a command and then maybe demo dash app, like that. So pressing enter, this should take like some couple of seconds, and then um, you should be able to bootstrap your Nest application. So as this is waiting to think whether it's going to do that, um, the most important thing about setting up a project is knowing which tools you're going to use. And the easiest way to know like the packages which I thought you should use them is going to package.json. Um, and now I'm in the darkness. Okay. So package.json should help you get most of the things. So if I just minimize the scripts and go to dependencies, these are things which Nest is going to add by default up to here. For I to read env variables, I'm using env. I'm also using Drizzle, and then you can have your PG here for Postgres, and then we have Zod. So other than that, those are the first thing we are going to use. Cool. So the next thing is Docker. So Docker, you just need to create like docker.compose, docker-compose YAML. So a compose file helps you to kind of define the things you need from Docker images. So for example, you can have access to even Dockerizing your whole application like in the API. This is where I've Dockerized, but that is not important for now. We just need to focus. Okay, as you can see here, npm, it will ask you which one you want to use. Anyway, you can use pnpm and then continue. But other than that, let's talk about Docker a little bit. So, since we have chosen Postgres as our database, um, there is a space here you need to observe, which you have written services, and then you can write Postgres. And then here you define the image, the container which it will live in, the ports which shall be used inside and outside the Docker image, um, the .env environmental variables which you can pick from .env, um, the volume to mount everything so that next time when you run the Docker container, it shall just pick the database and the data which was saved there. Health test, to make to check whether the app is to check the image whether it's healthy, and then a volume to persist our data. So that's all we need for now. This other one is just for building the API, and to build your API you need a Docker file. So in the Docker compose it will call Docker file. For example, we have defined that we are going to build, and the context is it's in the root folder. That's why we're using a dot. And then the Docker file is this Docker file, which I just said here. This will be the container name, the ports, the environmental variables, and then it will depend on Postgres. So once the Postgres is healthy, that's when we should be able to access Postgres via the API container. And then the rest is just for health and then restarting. I'm lazy, so I don't like writing Docker compose commands every time. So usually automate these using a script. So inside here, you shall find two scripts, by the way, one inside the scripts and the other one inside the Docker. So this one for Docker, for example, it's just a simple script to help me every time I spin up the Docker container for the first time. It should help me create some databases automatic. So that can be something that you can automate. For example, you see I have like employee DB, and then we have employee DB for production, and then dev, just for example. So where is this called? So inside your Docker file, in the Docker compose, if we go to Postgres, under this line of code, you see we are going inside the Docker and then Postgres. So inside um, Docker and then Postgres folder, then we made the file. So this is where it will be executed. Okay, that's the first script I like adding, so that when a container is created for your database, it should also have a server, obvious, will be there, and then a database. The second automation we usually do is under scripts. So this is a big file with a lot of things, but I have created a readme for you. For some reason, I don't know why I cannot preview this readme. I shall figure out how these um, later. So it seems electricity is back. So let me just give me a second. At least now I can see that everyone who is on the call. Okay. Um, let's continue. Can you guys see my screen? Yep. Oh, that's cool. Again, sorry for whatever is the setup. It's the first event to always have something like this. Okay. So as I was saying, this is my second automation. So I use this. So let's today learn a little bit of Bash. So if you have like a file like docker.sh, and then of course you can add this if you need it, the shebang and wherever that directory is there. But the most important thing is what Bash can do for you. I'm not a Bash developer, but I know some few things that you can automate and they can help you do some few things. So if you have ever done any programming language, you know what a case is. It's like if else, but more cleaner. So you can create something like case and then pass in a command there in, and then the first item you're checking from the case is like app. So for example, if I write something like after docker.bash and then I write app, what will it do? It will do docker compose app and build. Again, I don't know how people are familiar with Docker in this call. If guys you need like a dedicated call on this, I can create one or I can invite some few people to do that. Um, but basically, this is how I automate things. So I like up and then I have like this. When I run that, it'll just do that. To stop that, I can just do docker compose down, restart like that. So this is a cool way to do some few things and even get inside like the Postgres um, CLI and do some few things inside there. So I would like to preview the markdown, but that's impossible for now. Anyway, um, so basically, we shall just do a simple way to just create our database using the Docker files. So as you can see, this is my Docker container. Let me just open it. Um, Docker takes some few minutes to open. So as we wait for that, um, I'll walk you through these. So I've documented most of things. So if you do a script dash docker sh up, you shall just run the Docker containers, and that will be determined by whatever is inside this file. Okay, so we shall have a container for Postgres and a container for our API, which we shall talk about it in some few seconds. So the engine is still starting. Um, okay, here it is. So as you can see, I have nothing running except this, which I can just stop. And then let's create something. So I just want to start the database. So I'm just going to run this command here. What is this? DB up. So I'll require this. where the bash file is, like that. And then I shall do just db up, like that. So what is happening is that it's for you, if it's the first time you're doing this, it will take a little bit of time to create an image for Postgres, for example, like this one, and then it will spin up a container for you, like project setup, and then you shall get Postgres running. Um, so if I want to stop this, I just do the opposite, which is now down, which I don't know. For me, I like it like that. But you can also run the Docker commands. So let's just do um, up, and now everything is running. If you have ever used Postgres, you know these commands to kind of help you um, create tables and those type of things. So I added this command where you can just do psql. So like what we had here, but now do and psql, like that. So this should help you get inside the Docker container and be able to access our database like this. So as you can see, we are inside the Docker container, and we should be able to do some few things. I don't remember all the commands about uh, Docker, um, not Docker, but Postgres. But if I do Postgres CLI commands, there is this documentation for this, and you can just read this. If you don't remember anything, you can always check. So, for example, if I want to list all the database, I can just do /L, like that. So inside our CLI, if I do that, I should be able to see all our databases are ready. So we have the, I don't know why this is here, like a duplicate, but you should be able to get your production and development DB set up. Again, you can run any type of command, but I'll leave that to you. So this is how I like setting up these scripts. They help you automate a lot of things. Uh, and yeah, that's it for scripts. But the good thing is that we have our databases created automatic. So let's talk about our Nest application. So for this, we're just using the modular patterns, so nothing crazy. This is a default like type of pattern which is used in Nest. Um, so basically, we have our source file which hosts almost everything. We have a lot of .env files. Local is what is prioritized. So even in your when you're working in your projects at work or at school, so if you have a .env file with a .local, uh, the it is prioritized other than other files. So always know that it's something that I learned the hard way at work. um, but I like just having a local one, a dev, and prod if you want to do that. These days, it's not even safe to put your .env production credentials here. I'm just doing this for like for this call. So we have our DB password, name, and Postgres. Another cool thing I usually use is the Postgres extension. So with this Postgres extension, um, you can be able to add a connection, for example. Uh, but for some time, I don't know. I have to. Anyway, you guys go and try this. I don't know what is wrong with um, my VS Code today, but you should be able to add connection and add these things there, or there will be a section where you can add the whole URL, and you should be able to see this. if you like to do that, or use PG admin, whichever works for you. So the way I like structuring things is to have like a common folder for things like decorators and pipes. So to just kind of remind you, this is the next documentation. Um, there are things we call decorators um, and pipes. So we use pipes for validating things. So think of a request, a HTTP request, coming all the way from you sending the request, getting inside the API. You can use pipes which you inject in Nest.js, and they can validate things. They can do a lot of things. They can transform that request. So think of pipes as that. So let's say you're sending um, UUID file, a UUID string to fetch a user's data. So to make sure that that UID is a valid UID, you can use these parsers. So for example, this is for enum, this is for UID. So basically those are pipes. So this is where I can add pipes, decorators. Yep. So since I'm using Zod and Zod is not baked inside Nest, I have to create my own decorator and inject it to the app. So basically, I've explained almost everything here. So I have like Zod for the body, for the query, and for param. So it should help me kinda um, validate data which is coming through the a request body, a request param, and also a request query. So either of those three things, I should be able to use Zod to do that. So if this is scary to you, is what we call generics. So generics are functions which you can use to kinda do anything with, but the type. Remember, TypeScript is sensitive to types. It's not like JS. So generics helps you to pass any type of any type. Sorry, I was reading something here. So it helps you to extend any type of types which you're passing in. So wherever the data has, or wherever the data you're passing inside that generic, it should be able to be called T or whatever you want to call it. And that is the type of that. So because we are running out of time, this is the validator itself for Zod. Let me know whether people have some issues with the code, but basically, it's just a class validator, which is going to implement some pipes and the default pipe, and then transform the request according to what we want. And what we want is to use Zod. So it's as simple as this. So if you have a pipe in your app.module, you should be able first to do something, not up on our main.ts, sorry. You should be able to enable that inside the um, I think it's in the app.module. Oh, sorry, even you don't need to enable it. I think because you're using Zod, you don't have to enable these automatic. I'm so used to the class validators and the native pipes that in the main.ts you have to do that. So let's me just walk you through the whole code base. So if you're new to Nest, all the code starts from main.ts. So main.ts is where you bootstrap the app. It's like index.js or something like that. It's where the application starts running from. And then in Nest, everything is connected to each other via modules. Okay. So to do this quickly, Let me just show you a simple example. Yep. So let's say you're dealing with employee. You want to create an API based on employees, which we shall do in our next call. You have the service layer, which interacts with the database. You have the controller, which receives the requests. So for this controller to talk to this service, they are connected by a module file. Okay, so far so good. So this module file, for it to be able to be recognized by the whole application, it is connected to app.module. So let's say these are employees. Let's say you are doing something else with, I don't know, users. You should have the same way, like a folder for that users, and then you should have similar files, and all those files should be connected. No, not all those files, but app.module should be connected um, to the users.module.ts. So that's how files are connected in a Nest application. So here we have employees, um, we have departments, and department it's not even complete, but employees is complete. So app.module should be able to inject this employee.module inside here. So here, as you can see, let me just close the config. You should be able to see the database module and the employee module. So the employee module is imported inside this decorator at module, and this makes it easy for the app to, for different modules to talk to each other, because we have like app.module, which is keeping everything like in place. Think of this as the referee. So if you go to employees.controller, um, if you just ignore this and these inputs, you should see that we have the control decorator. So this is decorators. Decorators are functions which do things behind the scene which we don't care, but they help us do a lot of things. For example, it identifies this file as employees controller. So that's one way. Again, in Nest, we use classes in TypeScript. So you can see this is basically a simple class, employee controller, and then inside we have a constructor which is receiving employee service, and we have a method to do something. Okay, so when we send a request to kind of create employees, this is what is executed. So that request will have a HTTP type. So it can be a post request type, it can be get request type, it can be patch request type, it can also be delete. So that request will come here and then call a service. So our service is employee service, which we have injected in our constructor, and then this should be able to call a method like create, and then we are passing the data which is coming from the user, which is coming with the request. So this data, as you can see, we have validated it using the Zod body, okay, which is our, if you remember very well, in the common folder under decorators, we created these decorators, Zod body. Cool. So here in the controllers, we can validate these, and if we go to the services, we should be able to do those actions. Like inside the create function, we should be able to pass the data from the controller, um, do this. So this is all Drizzle ORM. So basically we are inserting data and passing the data from which we got from the, the request, and then insert it. So this is an insert function using Drizzle. Should return a row, um, and if there's an error, throw an error. Else, just return that row. The same goes to finding. So finding is something we shall discuss in our next course, because When you're fetching data in an API, you should think of a lot of things like sorting, um, searching, um, paginating, those like three or four things you should always think when you are fetching data. So let's say you're fetching all the employees. This can be a good way to think of that. We shall discuss in details in the next call on how I have done this. I know it's a little bit kind of complicated for someone who has never done this, but believe me, if you do this once, then you're good to go. This one is find one, so this is like um, select from this employee where employee ID is equals to ID. This is how I read Drizzle. It's so close to SQL. And then just give me the first person. So limit that to one. So if there is nothing, throw an error. So we're using these not found exceptions. They are built-in exceptions inside Nest. And then we have update. We have remove, which is delete. As you can see, delete in employees table where employee ID is equals to this ID. Cool. And then we have like a private method, a helper method to help us do some few things to get like the default Postgres errors and then throw them. So basically that's it. Inside the schema, this is where we define what a table is. So Drizzle is so good because actually you can, what is this? Inside Drizzle, you can actually work with any type of database. You can use Microsoft SQL, you can use SQLite, MySQLite, and also you can use CrudDB, Single Store, and Postgres. For us, we're using Postgres. So when you're using Postgres, there's a dialect. Think of it as a variation of Drizzle, which goes with that. So let's talk about that a little bit. So if you're using Drizzle, you want to create a schema, you'll have this PG table, which will give you, which think of it as a way of defining a table. It will be called employees. So this is a function. If you see it, this is more of a function, an arrow function, but it will help us define, it will return a table. So this is PG table. So if you're using Microsoft SQL or SQLite, that should change. For example, if I go to MySQL, for example, when I don't know whether we have those things here. These are examples from Postgres. Sorry, I don't want to waste time here, but you should have like, okay, good. So here we have PG table from Postgres. MySQL it will be MySQL table. For SQLite it will be SQLite table. Cool. So whichever database works for you, this is the only thing that changes. And also remember to install the drivers for that. For us, as you can see, we're using Drizzle ORM, but we're also using Drizzle ORM stroke PG core. That is for Postgres. So for MySQL, this should be, I don't know, MySQL something. Yeah. So these are like ID, first name, last name, email. So these are how we define them. We use this like concatenating objects or chaining, object chaining type of syntax here, where your ID, which will be stored in the database, what type will it carry? So it will be a UID. So this can be a string, it can be a number, but we are going with UID because they are a little bit random. And this UID will be named ID, and it will be a primary key, and I want by default to be random. Okay. So for names which are strings, so in the database we don't save things as strings in most of the SQL databases. We use the varchar. Okay. So we have varchar, and then we give it a name and a length, and say that should not be null. So not null. So for emails also, they are also emails. So email is just a string, and you can add a unique You don't want people to be creating duplicate emails. So unique constraint. So not null, unique, these are what we call constraints in SQL. Okay, so I also like adding created when and updated when as a default. Okay, and then two things I usually do, I usually export. Um, in Drizzle, you can infer. So infer is a way of like inheriting types from something. So from the employees table, I can infer the types which I can use to select something. So if I'm selecting something from the employees table, I can infer the types. So there are two types you need for selecting and inserting. So for example, if you go to the employee service and go to like find something, where is this? Find all. Okay. So what really happens? Let me put these in one law so that you guys can see. So inside a function like this, sorry, a method like this, um, this is a method name. It's asynchronous. Um, the data which is coming in is query. We are typing it using this list employee DTO, and then what are we returning? So after this is executed, we should return a promise because obviously we are waiting data. You need to wait data which is going to the database because it's a little bit slow. But the response, we are doing what? We are typing it as paginated result. So this is a type I created. I'll show you where it is. But this paginated result should be of type employee row. So employee row, this is something we inferred from the table. So if you go to where paginated result is, it's all coming from the DTOs, and where employee row is coming from the schema. Okay, which is a cool way of recycling things. So let's talk about DTOs. So DTOs help us to kind of um, create not only a schema, but also you set the roles. So when I'm creating an employee, what do I need? Babe, bado mko kwa call? Um, hey all. Sorry. Today it seems we have a lot of issues. Um, Let me just carry on. Sorry for that. I hope we are back. Can someone confirm that we are back?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay, cool. I was just I was just explaining what the schema types are and the details. So let's go to okay. So details help you to type your objects. Think of them as just objects. And with Zod, I know this is not how people are used to, like in the class validators. I think I can show you just briefly as we wind up, like how a class validator looks like. I don't know where I can get this. Is it inside controllers? Validate. Anyway, let me not spend time looking for it. But um, when you're using Zod, this is quite small. As you can see, this is quite small. It will save you like a lot of um, it will save you a lot of lines of code. I know someone like Michael likes something like that, small things. So so you just create something and then call the Z from Zod, then dot object and then pass everything and then define few things like, hey, the first name which is coming from the user should be a string. Trim that to remove the white space. The minimum should be one character and then the maximum should be 100. Simple. So if you're passing an email, you want it to be string, trimmed to remove white space, put it into lowercase, and also check whether it's a varied email, and then say a maximum of 255, which is crazy. This should be like 50. Um, and then the rest. So after these, as you can see, it's just an object. Call it, say it should be strict with these, and then you have your schema. So how do you convert this schema into a DTO? You just use the z.inform method, which should take the type of this. So you are kind of extracting this type. So where do you use this create employee DTO, which you are actually exporting as a type? So inside your controllers, let's say you're creating an employee, you just call our decorator, that is Zod body, uh, pass the data. This should be that you can call whatever you want. This should be just the the name of the data which will pass through the validator, which is our Zod and decorator. And then the data which is actually coming, which will go to the service, call it DTO, call it Kevin, whatever it is, but give it a type of employee DTO, which is what we were talking about here. So, so if you now see this and where it is being used, so this DTO will always validate the data which is coming from the user, whether it is of this type. So if there's an error, our decorator should throw that error. Okay. Else if there is no error, that data should go to the service. So as simple as that, you have your details ready for that. Cool. So I think I've explained almost everything. Or we can just do a simple demo for this. Um, so to run the application, there is a lot of commands, but simply you can just come here if you don't know them. uh, you can just run it via the scripts. So we have like start dev command, which you can do pnpm or npm run that, and that should be able to spin up your API, okay, in watch mode. So in prod, this should be this, okay. So our API is running on port 8000, which you can confirm it's coming from the .env files, which we have here. Where is this? We have a port of 8000. And something else, we have Drizzle. Drizzle has a way of kind of accessing the database via the console. So if I can just open this project again on the terminal and run this command for Drizzle, which should be studio. Okay, so pnpm run db studio like that. So this should be able to spin up a web interface for us to see our database. So it should be something like this. Um, and it's a cool interface. We can see our employee database, and inside it we can see there is no data, but we can actually see all the things we defined in our schema. Okay, we can even actually create a record, but I don't want to do this. I want to do that in the code base. So I also went ahead to create an app.http. So this is a file which can help you um, kind of create all the things you need to do to test an API. Okay, so these also have its own programming language. So it's easy. So if you have something like host, this is a variable. Anything that starts with an @ sign is a variable. So for mine, because my API is running on localhost 8000, as you can see at the bottom, I just create a variable known as that so that I won't repeat this line of code every time. Okay, so we are trying to do dry programming here. Content type application JSON. Okay, that helps you send requests in JSON format. So if I want to like fetch data from my database, let me just go through to that. So it's a get request. The host is what we shared there. So if you have a variable, you want to use it, you just use two double curly braces. It should help you do that. So sending this request is basically clicking on send. And I don't know whether I have installed that extension. So there's an extension you need known as let me see whether I've REST client. It's installed. Okay, so you need this REST client extension. Uh, okay. Um, so it seems today everything is not working. um, for some reason I can't click this, but anyway, in the next call we'll be ready. So simply, I don't want to use Carl. This is something also you can confirm on the UI. You can just uh, let me just copy this quick. Okay, so we have HTTP like that employees, and as you can see, we have data because of pagination. So data is empty, and then we have metadata showing you things like page size, total, those type of things. Um, I don't have Postman installed, so I wish I can just click this thing. Eh, Um, let me see whether we can uninstall this and install again. Okay, we can't create anything. There's this create button, but it is hidden by something. Uh, this is quite annoying. Uh, but anyway, I think that's it for this call. I've gone over so many things we wanted to talk about. It was more of project setup, not actually creating any API. In the next calls, we shall do that, and I shall have figured out how this is blocking anything. But if you have Postman installed, I think I should have that extension so that next time if REST grant is not working, I can simply do that in Postman. But maybe this will work on your end. I know I've talked a lot. So again, if you're joining the call, we have our GitHub page. We also have our Meetup page. So if you go to in GitHub, if you go to Kenya Data Platform User Group, um, and inside these repos, let me just copy this and share it on our user group. So we shall be having a lot of sessions here. So for you to see this exactly, you can just click on that. So let me just copy this link, and in our meetup page under the chat section, you should be able to have that. So just in case you have some issues, um, that should help you resolve most of them. Um, Maybe we can go to Q&A. People are quite silent, and um, I'd like to hear from you guys. Any question? Any question or suggestion?
I wanted to ask come out push the code for GitHub so that we can use it as a resource. Maybe when we want to go deeper into something.
Yeah, the code is there. I have shared the link on the meetup um, comment section. Uh, it should have the code for today for everything.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Yeah. So, and as I said,
Yes, yes, sure.
yeah, as I said, the code should help you go step by step type of tutorial. So even on your own, you can be able to um, explore almost everything. So if you come to the repo, which I've shared, if you go here, you shall see step by step way of doing things. You shall see what you need, how the code should look at the end of the call, at the end of this, how you should start, like npm install CLI if you don't have one, how you should set things up, all the way to Docker compose and running things. I think this should help you set up everything. Just in case you have some issues, um, there are two ways you can reach out to me or any member of this call. You can, if you like using Meetup like me, you can come here and ask any question. So that should be able to send this query to all the members, and people should respond to you. Um, or you can use our WhatsApp group um, and ask a question there, and people should help you out. So also Kenya Data Platform is part of um, Microsoft Azure Data Tech groups. So as you can see, we are part of this. That's why I like also using Meetup a lot. So this is also part of visibility, the things we do. Microsoft is paying for this Meetup so that we can have this pro page, so that they can see what we discuss and what we do. It's a good way. So we are part of Azure Data Tech, which has 115 groups all over the world. Yep. And as you can see, the dot inside Africa, here, this is us. Yep. Cool. Any other question? You don't have to fear me, by the way. I know people are always afraid to unmute their microphones. So there's also a chat section you can ask. If there is no other question, I don't know whether we should. I think we should end the call. Next week we shall have a similar session. To be more a little bit coding. I don't know whether this is beginner friendly. These days I lost track of what is beginner friendly. Um, Let me know any suggestion of something if it's not beginner. I know Anthony is laughing. Um, so if it's not beginner friendly, we want this community to have juniors, seniors, principal engineers, and everyone wherever they are. It's not always about how long you've been coding. It's about helping um, your colleagues into scaling up. You'll always learn something new from people who know things, from people who have great experience from programming, even from people who are just getting started, who have fresh brains. They are ready to create anything in this world. Yes, Branham. Branham, you can speak. Okay, Branham, your hand is up, but we can't hear you. I think I'll go to Michael Imani first. Michael, you can click the unmute button on top and speak. Are you?
Am I audible?
Yeah, now we can hear
Hello.
you. Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, I was asking how can we access the recording?
Okay, so today I was recording with an external tool. So bear with me, I'll combine everything. We usually, uh, I don't want to, let me, we have our YouTube channel, which we usually post those videos. Um, for these community calls. So that's where we usually upload them. So let me just share that. So, uh, okay, here we go. So if you just go to youtube.com and then Kenya Data Platform, this is where I'm going to create like a new playlist. Last year we did some few things to do with Azure. So I'll create a playlist for that so that you guys can see it. But I'll upload this video here. Um, yeah, so that you can always go back there and watch something. And also inside our meetup page, if you go to our meetup page, you should. I don't know that we have a link for. We have. Oh, we are missing a link. I'll see where I can add a link for YouTube and LinkedIn. We have our LinkedIn page. Yeah. If you're part of our user group, um, you can always ask a question in the discussion session, or you can ask in the WhatsApp group, and I should, or any one of our leads should be able to respond to that. If you go to members, we have a big community with us. We have a lot of leaders in this community, and you can see them here. Some of them are gold MLSAs, some of them are MVPs. Yeah, and we also have a big member. package with us here. I don't know most of these guys. So we are hoping now to have consistency so that people can always join. Any other question? Okay, so if there's no other question, thank you guys for showing up. I really appreciate this. I'll be spending a lot of time creating these sessions for this community so that we can learn the new things. Also, if you have ideas on events, I can schedule you in our timeline so that when that time comes in, you can just I can just collaborate with you on an event on this user group. It's not always about me; it's a community thing. So if you have an idea, let's say some of us are saying, "Hey, TypeScript is tough." Everything that Kevin is saying is like alien to me. Um, I can have someone else like Anthony taking us through a TypeScript series, TypeScript 101, to help us boost our confidence. Um, yep. So that's it. Uh, yeah. Or Valentine can teach us how to use Ubuntu, which I'm not sure that we need to know for now, but yeah. Uh, or Michael can teach us Rust, which is tougher than TypeScript. So I would advise us to run TypeScript first. Before, no, Michael is not a Rust developer. I'm sorry, I gave him the wrong um, credits. Credit. He just knows C and C++ and a little bit of TypeScript. Rust is not something that I'm. Anyway, see you guys next week. Thank you.